Paradigm Shift Summit. He's called Anthony Flynn, and I'm very excited to be presenting this gentleman over here. He is the director of Holistic Yoga and Meditation, which is a unique spiritual school that approaches evolution from a holistic perspective. Anthony's ability to link the ancient and modern provides a bridge between traditional classical spirituality and the 21st century lifestyle. His teachings incorporates the tantric path, mindfulness, the enneagram, tantric sexuality, and he is also a certified life coach. His background is from having an honors degree in politics and a master's in communication. So everybody, you may have thought that he actually was a hiding stand-up comic, but he isn't. Please welcome the host and the director of the Paradigm Shift Summit, the Cosmic Messenger, Anthony Flynn.
The introduction, I couldn't have written a better one myself. And to the organisers of this event, thank you so much for putting up with someone like me and being foolish enough to let me get on the stage. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for coming to this event. It's absolutely fantastic to see all you guys here. I mean, it really is incredible. It's been a massive build-up to for this weekend, and I really appreciate your support. And we're going to go through some things now which I feel are intrinsic to the awakening process. So really we need to start to consider firstly, what is awakening? We've all got our own ideas, we've all got our own interpretations. I'll give you mine, and anyone who knows me knows that I'm not shy of offering my own opinion. So awakening is becoming a little bit of a cliche of a word in the awakening community. That's even become a phrase I've noticed in this evolution of consciousness, that now we're starting to talk about the awakening community as a phrase. But what is awakening? Does anyone know what Buddha means? It means awakened one. And yet today we often correlate awakening with knowing about the chemtrails, with knowing about the GMO food, with knowing about the fractional reserve banking system, with knowing about all the different power centres around the planet. Awakening is knowing about the reptilians, right? Well, maybe. But I would say that that is perhaps just information. At best, it is knowledge. But information will not actually necessarily make you more evolved. It will make you more informed. It will make you more aware, but it won't necessarily make you more wise, because wisdom is eternal. It doesn't change. If you read Shiva Samhita, Gita Samhita, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, all these ancient texts, Mahanirvana Tantra, all these texts, they don't talk about the UFOs or the contactees or all these other things that we can often get lost on. And if we actually step back from it, we can often see that it's often mind candy and a distraction and a way of avoiding what's really significant for our own growth, our own evolution. Because wisdom is eternal. And by that I mean that it is unchangeable over history. So what was wisdom 2 centuries ago is wisdom today. Concepts or states of mind such as compassion, empathy, affectivity, altruism, intuition, all these things, they are eternal, and they have the relevance and the significance for the evolution of the soul, of the human soul, that will stretch the span of time. And for this reason, often in the awakening community, we can get lost on peripheral issues that don't actually necessarily make us more happy, more fulfilled, more content. So by definition, I would say to you that awakening is wisdom, and wisdom is eternal. And through this awakening process, this genuine awakening process, we become more inspired, more fulfilled, more giving, more wise, more humble, all these elevated states of mind. Not necessarily bashing the keyboard on social media, trying to explain to the world the rights and the wrongs and all these kind of things and who's running the world. But why is that so? Why is it that you guys get it, you understand what's going on, and so many of the people who are not getting it are referred to as asleep? Well, at an esoteric level, this is because of the structure of the chakras, of where their consciousness is dominant in the chakra system. And by this, I'm referring to the second chakra, the sacral chakra, Svadhisthana chakra. The chakra system is a complex system of consciousness where there is divisions and levels between different thought forms, different ways of being, ultimately a different way of experiencing reality. But the majority of the people on this planet live, breathe and will die at the level of Svadhisthana chakra, which is the second chakra. There is nothing wrong with this chakra. It's a beautiful chakra for romance, for socialising, for all these things. But when we talk about awakening, it's because they are dominant in their psychology at this level. Why? What does that mean? It's the collective. So therefore, the collective can shift to good things. But the collective on the planet at the moment is focusing on sports, gambling, TV, you know, all these mass things. Like the big ratings for the big events on TV are things like the Olympic Games opening ceremony, the World Cup football, that's soccer in Australia, but football if you know what I'm talking about, right? And these things are safety in numbers, because there is a lemming attitude in Svadhisthana where what is safe, safety in numbers, group consciousness, not thinking outside the box, not living outside the box. And part of that reason is because the consciousness in Svadhisthana is dominated by the water element. And if you pour water into a glass, it takes the shape of a glass. If you pour it into a pot, it takes the shape of a pot. So this means that it is fluid, it is undulating in this way, and it will simply give this form of collective consciousness whatever groupthink is, whatever the consensus reality is. And that, in a nutshell, at the deepest level, is a source of frustration for many people in the awakening community where they can't understand. That is definitely not a cloud, you know, and it's kind of this groupthink, this collective mind. But the collective mind can shift, and that's what's important to understand. It's not a bad thing, but it gives this collective process, like our belief systems, at a certain organic way that is quite on this planet, at a planetary level. So keep that in mind. Because one of the things I like to do is bridge classical spirituality with totally woo-woo stuff, because this framework of classical spirituality basically gives us a solid foundation to work with, not getting caught up in too many new ageisms. And that is actually the next point, because what I can see, which has started last year, is that the New Age movement has actually begun a maturing process, which is beautiful to see. People are not clutching onto their crystals, waiting for the Arcturians to land and hoping everything's going to be okay and putting their head under the blanket. Now people are actually starting to stand up and realise that the magic pill is evolution. I can't tell you enough. If there's only one thing you get out of this talk today, understand that this process that we're going through is evolution. Call it awakening, call it whatever you want, but ultimately it is the evolution of the human soul, and it is in a compressed time frame. And people now are starting to have more discernment. Not everybody, not in all situations. It's difficult because there's so much psyops out there, there's disinfo, there's all kinds of things happening. But what we need to understand is that there is this discernment that's creeping into the New Age community. It has been a long time coming, I'm sure you'll agree with me. But now people are starting to think, gee, I wonder if that person really is channeling that 40th dimension being, that's this exalted being, and yet this person doesn't seem to reflect any of those qualities. Do you think that person might just actually be channeling themselves? And it's starting, and I don't get involved in that, but now I'm starting to see that people are actually starting to become more clear in their mind and realise that the time has come for us to take our own responsibility and for us to do our own inner work. So evolution is the magic pill. Everyone on this planet is evolving, breath by breath. For some of us it's a slower process, for some of us it's a faster process. There is no right or wrong in evolution. Ultimately the soul journey will ensure that we all get the lessons that we need. That's baked in the cake. But it's important to have compassion for our brothers and sisters who are on this journey, who perhaps are not at the same level of awakening as us, whatever that is, because we've all got our own baggage, we've all got our own issues to work through. But basically this process of evolution is the game. And so now I'm seeing people move from disempowered states to more empowered states. And what I would like to make clear is that a lot of these sort of predictions and things that are happening, it's always coming next, at the next solstice, at the next equinox, at the next eclipse and so on, there's going to be this magic awakening. I start to see that people now are not waiting for that, and they're taking responsibility for their evolution on a day-by-day basis, which is empowering. Disempowerment is waiting for some alien being from the 50th dimension to come and save us. You know, disempowerment is just basically not taking personal responsibility. The most powerful thing you can do with your own evolution is realise, hey, I created this situation, how can I learn from it? That's a state of empowerment. Disempowerment is, I'm the victim. Oh, you know, the government is doing this to me, or the leader doing this to me, the Illuminati are doing this to me, and I'm the victim. If I'm in that state, I'm disempowered. And that's why 90% of our focus should be on solving the problems, on solutions, 10% on the problems. The awakening community, the way I see it, the tsunami has already started as far as people waking up to all the problems on the planet. That really started to go rapidly since 2012. That's accelerating rapidly now. That part will continue to move through into the mainstream, I think, more and more and more. But we need to be on the cutting edge where we need to find solutions to these problems, because we are the co-creators of the new paradigm. And it's important to understand that we have to take responsibility for this ourselves. So the awakening isn't accelerating, and we are looking for an internal paradigm shift. So as we move through this, there is an intensification of karma. That's why there's problems with the relationships. That's why there's problems with the career. That's why there's problems with the health. You getting it? Yeah, that's why there's problems with the finances. That's why the problem is with the life purpose. And that's the big one. The four main questions of philosophy are, where did I come from? Where am I going? Who am I? The essence, the I. Why am I here? And that's the big one that people are starting to ask more, and that's the one that's really upsetting the old paradigm way of being. We're looking for a new way of living. And this increasing of karma is because the karma is coming to fruition, as the Buddhists say. That is actually a good thing. And some of you are like, no, it's not a good thing. We didn't incarnate for an easy life, this one. This isn't about sitting on a golden cloud, you know, in some exalted reality and so on. This incarnation was supposed to be a tough one for us to remember who we are, where we're going. And the fruition of karma means that the karma is releasing. It's coming to an end. So it's actually a cause of celebration, even if it's difficult karma, because we're actually moving away from this way of being and releasing this karma. So remember that when you have the trust in the universe that ultimately everything is working for your highest good, you can trust. It's not easy. I don't claim to have mastered these things. I'm still on the journey just like everybody else. I'm a work in progress. But when I can let go sometimes and understand that things are working for my highest good, I can trust. And that's a really powerful place to be. It's not an easy place to get to, but if we can try to remember that and step back from the story, step back from the rumination, and just allow the process to unfold. This thing's messing with my chi. All right. And so we have the tantric goddess Kali. Kali symbolises time. And this complex metaphysical reality is basically compressed as I see it. So everything is accelerated now. So we're in acceleration of the deconstruction of the old paradigm and in an accelerated phase of the awakening of the new paradigm. And this is basically summed up in the tantric tradition as the Black Mother, as Kali, the goddess of time, not Kali Yuga. This is a confusion a lot of people have. There are 16 vowels in the Sanskrit alphabet, 2 A's and 2 I's. And it's a different use of the vowels, which gives a totally different word. This is related with Kundalini awakening and the process of time itself. So we understand that this accelerated period means that the boat is getting rocked in all of us now. And in many ways, that's a good thing, because we're moving through the shift. We're moving through this process, and we need to embrace it. Work with the changes, work with our limitations, and at worst case scenario, allow to be what is.
UFOs are playing up.
Okay, Mercury's about to go retrograde. That's my excuse. Okay, so we have this shadow and light, and we have this idea that we are now, spiritual bypassing is not an option anymore. We're forced to confront our evolution head on. It is confronting. We're seeing our weaknesses, we're seeing our limitations, we're seeing where we make mistakes, all these things, and it's becoming more and more accelerated. The mirror is being held up more and more for us now to see where we really are at on this journey. And the more we can have this self-acceptance and this self-understanding, this self-love, the more we can move through the shift, because evolution is a process. We can't get to the end goal without going through the steps and so on and experiencing failures, experiencing problems and getting things wrong, making mistakes, because then we're able to learn and grow from those. So we have this shadow, this light, both within us, but in the moment they are operating in a duality. So we're experiencing both of them. As the light is coming in, we're also being focused to or challenged to experience our shadow more. So is that someone's phone? Would you mind turning that off? Is that a little bit too much to ask? Thank you. Okay, so this is the important part. The rest of the stuff was bullshit, but this is important, okay? This is important. Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra, 16 spokes. Now, there is something changing with the space-time continuum that I have started to understand happening clearly. It started very faintly in 2015, but is growing in intensity. Now, Vishuddha chakra is important for the shift. It's very important. It's related with the space and time continuum. It's related with sacred geometry because it's mathematics. Vishuddha is mathematics. It's related with some architecture, some very, very profound music like Vangelis type sort of sound of music. These types of things. It's also related with like projection into Akashic records, like the big intuitive people, like the ones who could actually see, the seers. I'm not talking about the wisdom of the heart now. That's something different, the inner knowing of the heart. That's how I explain it as something different. I'm talking about the big ones like a Nostradamus, like a Mother Shipton, like an Edgar Cayce, connection to the throat. There was one guy when Edgar Cayce, who was, when he was under in the trance, he actually asked him the outcome of a horse race. And the guy apparently bet a lot of money on it and won in the horse race. And it was known that he wasn't supposed to do those things to make money from his skills, from his gifts. And when he came out, he had this massive sore throat, really, really sore throat. And it's basically because of the impurities of Vishuddha. It's very, very intolerant. It's very intolerant. Anyway, the story ended. The guy who actually won the money in the horse race, he apparently ended up in asylum. Maybe just went to too many psychic fairs. I'm not sure. But my point is, Vishuddha is extremely intolerant to impurities, emotional impurities, even like really heavy like music, all kinds of things that are disharmonious. Vishuddha just closes up. A Vishuddha type person you do not see at a festival chewing their face off in the boiler room with a orange sort of lollipop. That's not a Vishuddha person, okay? Vishuddha person, very pure, because Vishuddha itself in Sanskrit means purity. And this is the important part, because something is changing at the level of Vishuddha chakra that I'm experiencing, which I'll come to. Thank you. Okay. So, this is important as well, because we have the 7 chakras, and we have Muladhara chakra with 4 spokes. We have Svadhisthana chakra with 6 spokes. We have Manipura chakra with 10 spokes. We have Anahata chakra with 12 spokes. We have Vishuddha chakra with 16 spokes. We have Ajna with 96 spokes, and Sahasrara means 1,000-fold in Sanskrit. So you can see that the number of spokes increases going up through the chakras. And the reason for that is there is a complexity of consciousness, becomes more complex. Not only that, if we look at the elements, we start the earth element, the water element, the fire element, the air element, and then the 5th element. That's not a Bruce Willis film. Okay, that's ether, the matter, the dispersed matter. So you can see there's a lightness as we move up through the chakras, an energetic lightness as we move into the upper chakras. Now, if you said to me, Anthony, what's the most important chakra for this whole awakening game? There is not a doubt in my mind, if there's only one thing that you do in this lifetime is connect to your heart, open the heart chakra, that will be the most important thing in terms of the chakras. So that's always important to remember. But understand, we're talking about a less dense reality here. Okay, so this space and time displacement is important. There is something changing that I started to notice in 2015 very faintly, and it is gaining in intensity. Now, I spoke about it last year, that there is a change that is happening where I am connecting to some state or some state of being very, very rapidly that is a rapid expansion. That there is something changing in the space-time continuum as I'm experiencing it, but it is very, very fast. And it is very, very, it's very subtle. And I have to be in a certain state to experience it. So it's been interesting for me noticing leading up to this event that a couple of weeks before, that it's been happening less with intensity because my stress levels have been going up. So where I am right now is kind of, it's not great. But something is happening. And this feeling is a feeling of rapid expansion and complete stillness at the same time. And I feel like I'm connecting with something else. I don't know what that is. I've been doing yoga and meditation since 1999. This isn't coming from my practice, I can tell you that. This is coming from something else. It's a mysterious thing, I don't understand it myself. But I want to give you some tips on how to connect with it, because I think it's with Vishuddha Chakra. So obviously, all the things around purity of speech, because it's the voice as well coming out. All these things are very important for keeping Vishuddha Chakra open. And also to be still, because there is this rapid expansion in this stillness. So it doesn't happen to me when I'm riding my bike or I'm driving the car or something kind of quite dynamic. It usually happens when I'm quite still. And you just have to be there to catch it, because I think many of you are already experiencing this and will start to experience it more, but you perhaps aren't perceiving it yet. Basically, when it happens, don't try and analyse it. Don't try and control it. Don't try and make it happen. Just allow it to happen. This isn't something because I'm special. I know it's not, because my practice doesn't reflect this kind of state. I couldn't have even imagined that I could have created this state years and years ago, because I don't even know how to create it now. But when it happens, if I don't see you again, just allow it to happen, but be there for it. Don't try to do anything with it. Just be still and notice the expansion. It will happen very quickly, but it will happen with greater intensity the more and more that you can connect with this energy. It's there. What's important to understand is this whole experience that people are labelling fourth density, fifth dimension, ascension, whatever you want to call it, all those layers, those stratospheres of consciousness, we already know that from the Tantrics. They stratify this into 49 different levels of the universe, starting with Prithivi, which is the earth element. Basically, they're already there. They're there. It's we who need to go to them. And that's what we need to understand. That's our journey of awakening right there, is that those higher dimensions that people are seeking, the inner peace starts here. It starts here, and we have to go to it. My feeling is that our journey here is something of a bridge. That this higher self, whatever you want to call it, is conscious in these environments and these levels of existence, but we're not here. And our journey is to create that bridge. And my feeling with this expansion that is occurring is that that is part of the bridging process. So, the best way you can do this bifurcation process is that there's expansion in stillness. That this splitting that everyone's talking about, this bifurcation, this splitting, is basically to be still. Because another point I just want to give you is that I'm noticing sometimes I'm waking up in the middle of the night, my mind is completely frozen. Completely. I'm not thinking, I'm not analysing, it is completely frozen. That's the beginning of samadhi in cosmic consciousness in yoga, and I don't even know how that's happening. So if it happens to you, like you're waking up in the night, don't try to think it out. Just be there for it, to experience it, because it's a very high state, and it means that the process is occurring. Now, I don't know where this journey is going, and that's the whole fun of it in a way. Many people are wanting to have this thing ended, they want to kind of get to the end goal, but the whole process for us is to really experience this, to embrace this journey, because we are remembering. And I'm trying to celebrate it. I'm just like everybody else. I'm having my struggles with things. Not every day so easy, but I can tell you that something is categorically happening, and it is real. It is an actual process of awakening that we are experiencing. So the most important thing to make this happen more is presence. And to be still. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and to allow what is. Even in the most challenging of circumstances. Can you see the irony? And to connect with this Vishuddha chakra. So, you know, violent movies, all these sort of disharmonious ways of living that is all part of the agenda to keep us suppressed, is not helping Vishuddha chakra. Anthony, are you telling me that I shouldn't even be watching Game of Thrones? Hey, I would never say that, right? But be aware, Vishuddha is intolerant, but to be present because there is this expansion in the stillness and just allow it to occur. It's at this point, that's all I can tell you, that just be in a state of allowing, connect with it, and don't try to control it. It's a complex thing. They told me it was the computer. I doubt it. So this shift is a gateway for growth. And we are moving. And I really think that it's important for all of us to be sincere about our growth, even if we fall, to keep on getting up and to continue on this path, because it's not an easy one, but we can make rapid progress in our evolution through this whole shift. That there is an opportunity here for massive growth, massive awakening that I don't believe is a normal lifetime, that this lifetime represents a special opportunity for all of us. And the best thing we can do is, you know, seize that whole, the whole process. So we need to become the frequency holders and embody this consciousness, not to make it something that's abstract, that's just knowledge, that's just information. We've got to try to manifest it, to ground it, to embody it, the frequencies coming in. Because I can tell you, to finish off, that the subtle energy of the planet is definitely changing. The frequency now that's coming through the upper chakras, it's coming in waves, it's not moving in a linear situation, it is of a very high frequency that was not accessible a few years ago. Even this year there have been moments and times where it comes very powerfully, all of a sudden. But the energy is there, the consciousness is there. It's us that needs to connect to these upper states. And so we can embody this frequency, so we can manifest this frequency. This is what we incarnated for. It's not about having a sports car or the right postcode or the right material things. They are great, there's nothing wrong with them, but we need to understand that it's the journey of the soul here that we need to embody and embrace, particularly in the coming years. I think this process will continue to accelerate if it's on the same trajectory as where it is now. I don't give time frames or anything like that with a shift, because we're connecting with a space and time that is beyond linear time itself. It's consciousness that will determine this process, both individual and collective. And I think I'm going to go now. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. I wanted to thank you all for being so awesome, and thank you so much for being the shift. Thank you, everybody.